Why does you build it, you run it work so well, yet leave people feeling a little uncomfortable? What are the usual excuses? Concerns. And how can you help people to overcome them? Hello, and welcome to the channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, you should do so now. That way you can stay up to date with all of the cool stuff that's happening here on this channel. I'm Steve Smith. I'm Cornish, and I'm the Global Head of Modernization and Platforms at Equal Experts. I'll be your host for today. I'm afraid Dave Farley isn't available. He's lost a bet to me, again, so he's gone to Hollywood with his top lawyers to stop all of those needless cash-in sci-fi sequels that I don't want to see happen. You build it, you run it is where product teams build, test, deploy, operate, and support their own modern services. If you need daily deployments, free 9+ availability, and an organizational culture of learning, then you build it, you run it is just for you. It's been around for ages. In 2006, the Amazon CTO Werner Vogels first defined the term. Then in the early 2010s, the DevOps cargo cultists talked about DevOps teams, same thing. Then in the late 2010s, the SRE cargo cultists talked about SRE teams, pretty much the same thing. They're all different legs of the same elephant. There's a 2022 Atlassian survey of 2,000 engineers that showed 59% of engineers are on call, and there was a strong correlation between job satisfaction and you build it, you run it. Once people do it, they love it. A couple of years ago, I co-authored an entire playbook on you build it, you run it with my colleague Bethan Timmins. It's available for free at this URL on screen right now. While we were writing the playbook, Bethan said to me, "Did you realize that you build it, you run it would be the hill you would die on, Steve, more than continuous delivery?" And I guess she's kind of right, because I have seen it achieve wonders in organizations when it's been set up well. And plot spoiler, that really is the key to you build it, you run it. Like, you have to get it right at the start. Here's what you build it, you run it looks like in terms of deployments. The product team does everything: build, test, deploy, launch, monitor, support. Your change management team is notified after a deployment for an automated audit trail. There are 0 handoffs, low knowledge synchronization costs, and no scheduling conflicts. This is what you want your prod deploys to look like. And here's what you build it, you run it looks like in terms of reliability. Your product team has an on-call engineer in hours and out of hours on L1 support. That means automated alerts go to them first, not to any kind of operations team. That on-call engineer responds to the incident. They pull in other team members as necessary. They can also reach out to other enabling teams like the DBAs or network admins or incident managers for support. Engineers have the incentives, skills, and time and space in this model to actually fix all of those operational problems that become latent faults, that become major incidents down the line. To be fair, your operations team probably saw the same niggles before you switched to you build it, you run it, but they probably didn't have the permissions or time and space to make the changes. When this happens, all of it dramatically improves your time to acknowledge, your time to restore. In one organization, I saw 44 services owned by 29 teams with 29 on-call rotors in hours and 16 rotors out of hours. Over 1 year, they averaged a time to acknowledge of 2 minutes and a time to restore of 27 minutes. This was a 2x improvement on the central operations team that came before them.
Let me pause there and thank our sponsors. We're extremely fortunate to be sponsored by Equal Experts, Transfic, and Tuple. Transfic is a financial technology company applying advanced continuous delivery techniques to deliver low latency trade routing services to some of the biggest financial institutions in the world. All of our sponsors offer products and services that are extremely well aligned with the topics that we discuss on this channel every week. So if you're looking for excellence in continuous delivery and software engineering in general, then click on their links in the description below and do check them out.
All right, let's get into those you build it, you run it excuses. Concerns. It's amazing, really, how many senior leaders, managers, practitioners tell me how much they love you build it, you run it, and then find these elaborate reasons why it couldn't possibly ever work in their organization. I've got 6 good ones to talk about. I can only cover 2 today, so watch out for future videos on the channel where I'll talk about the others. All right, so now we've got engineers won't want to do it, and nobody would be accountable. Let's talk about engineers wouldn't want to do it. Like, have you actually asked them? That's normally a good starting point. And you need to talk about the why. In my experience, if you trust people with the why, if you explain to them the context of a change, they're more amenable to the change. If you treat adults like adults, they'll probably behave like adults, right? And in this case, if you explain to your engineers that you're falling behind the competition, that business metrics are down, that you need to have a more adaptable business, and to do that, you need to achieve engineering excellence, you need a step change in technology, and you build it, you run it as part of a raft of changes, then people will probably be willing to give it a try. And you have to listen to engineers' concerns as well and then work with them to resolve them. There was a 2022 survey by Instant.io that talked about engineer concerns surrounding you build it, you run it. And the number one concern was disruption on personal life. By the way, that's exactly the same concern that operational teams have. People were concerned about not being able to go cycling, always having to carry a laptop, not going to the cinema while there's no reception, not going out for a drink with your friends on an evening. I understand that. I've been on call before in a British company before, like you do get a bit stressed about it. And the way to acknowledge this disruption to people's personal lives is to compensate them for it. There are different compensation models. There's no right or wrong way to handle this. You have to figure out what's best for your organization. I would recommend always a flat on-call rate and a flat call-out rate. It's really important to compensate people for making themselves available for response, not just responding when an incident occurs. Morally, it's the right thing to do. Okay, now let's talk about nobody would be accountable. I mean, is someone accountable today? Is there one person somewhere who's available at any time to explain what's wrong with your life systems? Again, this comes back to the why. If your senior leaders explain to people why changes and accountabilities will help drive your business forward, then people will probably be willing to give it a try for a while. Explain to your senior leaders the benefits of product managers mapping operational requirements onto customer outcomes. Product managers planning for observability, planning for availability targets. But that can only be a good thing. And yes, engineers need to help them to make good choices around the foregone signals and around availability targets. They will balance risk tolerance with engineering effort. Nobody's going to arbitrarily pick 5 nines of availability because they're the ones that need to invest the time and effort to consistently achieve that standard. They'll prioritize failure design alongside product features. They'll protect themselves, for example, from brittle downstream dependencies with circuit breakers and bulkheads. This is always a key indicator that teams are really caring about resilience. Here's a Racy model for a British online auction site that I once worked at. This is how the standards around who was accountable, who was responsible, who was consulted, and who was informed were clearly laid out to everybody in the technology organization. You'll see that for legacy services, nothing has really changed. The head of operations is accountable for reliability, and the application support team is responsible for the day-to-day running of the live services. And this is a really key insight into you build it, you run it. You don't have to change everything. You don't need to do it everywhere. Focus on where it will drive the biggest benefits for you. Now, with your modern services, you have a different way of approaching accountability and responsibility. It depends upon who's funding the product team. Your head of operations is always consulted on reliability changes. The application support team is informed. But the person who's accountable, it depends on who's funding the team, as I said. So if it's a team that are building a new proposition, it will be the head of product who's funding the team, so they're accountable for reliability. Alternatively, if the team is delivering a major technology upgrade, then it will be the head of IT who's accountable because they're funding the team. And in both cases, the product team is responsible for the reliability of live services. This is hard to accomplish. It's not just about shifting accountabilities. It's also about shifting an OpEx on-call line item into multiple CapEx budgets. It's hard to do this. And again, it's the right thing to do. Next time I'm here, I'll cover more you build it, you run it excuses. I mean, concerns. But before that, Dave has to stop those cash-in sci-fi sequels. There were 2 Terminator films, nothing since 1991, and I don't care what anybody thinks they might have seen. Thanks for watching.